Captain, it seems the US are coming around the bend, ready to do another move. I can hear them. That's great, Vasily. Give me a ping. One ping only, please. Ping! Ping! Now, Vasily, I asked you not to be silly and give me one ping only, please. I mean, using your naval equipment shop. Yes, Captain, right away. I'm sitting here waiting, contemplating what's the best day. Watching that movie, I believe the moment. Wow, I'm the leader. Wow, I'm the leader. Oh, I'm the leader. Mullet. Hey guys, welcome to the one, the only Hunt for Red October special here on Lee the Mullet podcast. And, of course, that is part of our Sean Connery retrospective, the passing of the great legend. 90 years of age, one amazing Scotsman, and, of course, the debonair man himself, 007. He's still the best. There's no getting around that. The original. We're going to miss him, but today we're going to celebrate one of the great films out there, and that is, of course, Hunt for Red October. Joining me today is one of our dear friends, and one that you guys have out there, all you listeners have sent feedback to the Facebook page and to the email. You want Lee Fillingsness back? Well, guess what? He's back, and he's going to do Sean for you right now. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing quite well, Miss Moneypenny. How are you today?
Yes, I'm taking out the car for a bit of a roll around. I think I go faster than these Rolls Royces and the Aston Martin. What do you think, sir?
Have you ever lost anything, Dr. Bronx? Your car keys or your bus pass? I found the cure for the bloody plague of the 20th century, and now I've lost it.
Now, Lee,
think about most of the Sean Connery stuff that I can do is impressions of him saying filthy, horrible things from Celebrity Jeopardy. So I'm just remembering all the movie quotes that I can do.
It's your grunge thing.
Yeah, I big fan of Sean Connery, obviously hosting Blood of Kings over there with Kevin the Raider Reitzel. We love Sean Connery over there. He played Ramirez in the first couple of Highlander films, and it's just I came into Connery late, and it really my first true immersion in like how good an actor Sean Connery was is actually the movie we're doing tonight. The Hunt for Red October. I had seen him in the Time Bandits, of course. That was kind of on a constant rotation when I was a kid, and also Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Yeah, and it's weird because I had thought that was a much older movie than it was, but it came out just a year or so prior to Highlander. But it looks like it was made in the 60s. It looks like that classic old Hollywood chintzy sets, overly stylized, not based in reality. So it was kind of a weird one, realizing that was a much younger movie than I thought it was. But I remember going to see Hunt for Red October with my dad at the Valley 3 Cinema in Des Moines, Iowa, and not really being excited about it. But I think every kid has that first movie they watch that's meant just for grown-ups. And not the other kind of movie, the first time that's meant just for grown-ups. But like, this isn't a kid's movie.
No.
But I remember walking out of the theater and just being in a headspace of like, something about my perception of film had changed with this movie. And really the next time I felt that was with Pulp Fiction. So I mean, this was like a for me as a moviegoer, as a kid growing up a little bit, because I think I must have been about 10 or 11 when this came out. This was 87, right?
87, correct.
So I would have been 10. Or 9 turning 10 when this came out. And this just blew my mind. And I actually got the book about a year later. And you imagine an 11-year-old trying to read that book. But I've still got it. I actually was rereading it when I got the news about Sean, too. So I absolutely love this movie. And, of course, Sean Connery, like you said, he is the James Bond by which all others will be judged.
Has been changed. The new number is...
G'day, man. How you going? Follow the Lethal Mullet here on Fandom Podcast Network's master channel at fbnet.podbean.com or subscribe on the Podbean app, where you can find all the shows. Blood of Kings, a Highlander podcast. Culture Clash, a weekly look at pop culture. You look at Making Treks, a Star Trek fan podcast. You can also check out the Mullet Guild, a look at the Dune universe from me, the Lethal Mullet. You can also check out this show and all the others like What a Piece of Junk, a Star Wars podcast, Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast, Good Evening, an Alfred Hitchcock podcast, and much, much more. All on FPN. You can follow on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and all podcatchers. Make sure you follow me, the Lethal Mullet, at The Lethal Mullet on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Oh, without a doubt. I have a similar experience to be honest, Lee. I watched the movie pretty much when it came out on VHS, so I didn't see the theatrical screening of it out here in Australia. And so it would have been 88, 89, somewhere around there when it dropped. We always got things 12 months later than cinema when it came out. And what I watched was this movie that I expected more of an espionage thriller because of what I'd learnt, even just as a kid, Tom Clancy. I went, oh yeah, he's that spy guy. And that's what I thought, right? So, and then, I watched this movie, which, obviously we've got Mr. Baldwin in there, we've got Connery, we've got Sam Neill from Australia, well, New Zealand, but Australia as well.
Yeah.
And then we've got these just Stellan Skarsgård, we've got all these just brilliant actors in this movie. And what I found was that I was drawn to was not the gadgets, not the subs, not all that. It was the characters. The dialogue was what really sucked me in. And I did not read the book for years after. It was much later that I got into Tom Clancy reading it. It wasn't until Patriot Games and Harrison Ford, because I was a big Harrison Ford fan, not just for Star Wars, but more for indie, to be honest, and Mosquito Coast, all that sort of stuff. But then I watched Patriot Games, and I remember my old man. He was like, this is not my stepdad, but my actual father, Kevin, and he got the novel. He was kind of like, that's a damn good movie, that Patriot Games. You got to watch that. And that's that first movie. Oh, hang on. And he's reading the book and he goes, oh, this is set before Hunt for Red October, apparently. Oh.
Yep.
Oh, it must be the same series. So I remember the book, once he finished it, we passed it around. So I read it, then I gave it to my brother. This was Patriot Games. And so we read that. We read Clear and Present Danger as well, which obviously they did a movie of a couple of years after, in the mid to late 90s. So that was Harrison's run with an Australian director. A little bit of different kind of a movie. Still got that Mace Neufeld producing them. But then I came back to Red October around about, I think it was 2000. They re-released the book out here in Australia in a big, huge hardcover. But it was cheap as chips. It was about $8. So I picked it up, read it, and I'm like, wow, I actually got into it. Then 3 or 4 years later, another release came out of it. I read it again. Each time I've read this book, a little bit like Dune, I get more of the technical jargon. I get more of what is happening as a military part, the naval parts. Do you get that too on rereads?
Yeah, and for me, it's really the part that I come back to more is the relationship between Bart Mancuso and Seaman Jones.
Yes.
Or Jonesy, and basically the captain of the Los Angeles class submarine. Can't remember the name for the life of me right now. But Scott Glenn's character, and then Courtney D. Vance, and you were kind of talking about the technology and the characters, and I think the reason why the technology works so well is because it is part of the characters.
Yes.
You've got the Caterpillar drive on the Red October. Mm-hmm. And, that's the conceit. That's what, that's the MacGuffin that everybody's after in it.
Yes.
But it's also, Connery has that great thing when he's addressing the crew. He's like, I'm reminded of the days of Sputnik and Yuri Gagarin when the world trembled to the sounds of our rockets. Now let them tremble to the sounds of our silence. And, it is the ultimate cat and mouse game, though, because they've got a silent boat, and then you've got this, kind of genius sonar operator.
Yeah.
And, for most of the movie, you're watching it, even in the book, you're following Jack Ryan.
Yeah.
But really, it comes down to Seaman Jones. It comes down to Bart Mancuso and, these nerves of steel. And, Jack Ryan kind of is keeps him from blowing him up, you know, and he's like, oh, he's going to pull a crazy Ivan to the right. He always does it at the top of the hour. He's like, I figured out 50-50. What a great line, you know? I mean, he's just in the middle of trying to end World War III, and he's just pulling stuff out of his butt. But, you know, you got that, and then you've got Connery, you know, basically kind of playing against Tupolev, played by Stellan Skarsgård, one of my favorite actors.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and, you know, he would go on, you know, everyone kind of knows him now from, you know, like the Thor movies and all that stuff.
And Ronan.
But to me, Ronan is exactly where I was going.
Now it's time for the latest action news from the cinema and martial arts movies and more, all here on the Lethal Mullet podcast.
That is, I would put that movie, and that's another one we're doing, buddy. We got to do Ronan.
Yes.
The first gunfight, me and my buddies had a boat in Paris. On the other side of the boat that they actually, where De Niro was shooting, that boat is called the Vega. Ours was just on the other side of it called the Nilali. So like, we'll definitely. I've got some stories to tell, but like, he was such a great villain in that one, and like that same sort of cat and mouse, intelligent, you know, gameplay, and you just have this great relationship, you know, like all the little gamesmanship that's going on. And it's Jack Ryan trying to catch up and figure out what everybody else knows.
Yeah.
And it's like he's playing a serious version of Jack Burton.
Yeah.
Like he eventually gets to kill the guy at the end.
Yeah.
And save the day. But everybody else is the main character. It's just we're following Jack Ryan through this. So I guess if you're Jack in the 80s, you know, everyone else is doing the work and you're getting all the credit.
It's really is. He's kind of like he's a naive nerd, which we'll get into. But I have to dial it back to Ronan, folks. We're doing Ronan. We're definitely going to do it. And we'll talk quickly just about what we're going to do because just off air, folks, we chatted about a few great films, which I think you're all going to agree the right people to talk about is myself and Lee. But I got to do it. You ready? Spill a bit of raspberry jam back there. Spill a bit of raspberry jam. It's a job well done. There you go.
And that's a fact. People are going to be sick.
What's the colour of the boathouse in Hereford?
What? I don't know what you mean. Leave me alone. You're going to tell me how to plan an ambush? I just ambushed you with a cup of coffee. What do you want for Christmas? My 2 front teeth. Will that do? And he just picks up a saw. Yes, everybody out there, if you have not seen Ronan, go ahead and push pause. Watch that movie and see why we'll be talking about this in the middle of a thing about another movie. I mean, it's a fantastic film.
It's great. And plus you get a Bond villain in it too, Hugo Drax from Moonraker. Yeah, he's a great actor too, that guy. Brilliant actor.
Yeah. Well, and this is, you know, I mean, that movie's like the first time I really recognized Sean Bean in anything.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen like all the Sharp movies yet, which another one we got to do. I love the Richard Sharp series. I mean, you get
great.
Jean Reno. I think in probably his best role since the Professional. Leon.
Leon.
You know, and maybe the only other one that he did that was better, I think I would call it Décollage Horaire. It's this very funny romantic comedy. I completely did not expect from him. But
is that Remy and Quentin in the US? That one? Is that the one I'm thinking about? He did one where he's a convicted, I think armed robber or something like that. He's in jail and he's next to this guy who's an absolute nitwit. He's a simple guy, and it's Gerard Depardieu and him, and it's I think it's called Troy, or Remy and Quentin. I think it's called.
Oh, I've not seen that one.
Oh, you have to.
Adding something to my movie list.
And honestly, because Gerard's playing it for laughs all the way through, and Jean is just playing it like a basically straight up not comedic, but straight up criminal who escapes jail, and then he says to Jean, I can help you. And Jean goes, no, stay away, I don't need you. And then he says, I get your car. He goes, all right, steal a car. Steals a cop car. He goes, don't just steal one cop car, give me a car. He steals 3 police cars. Absolute goof. And I mean, Gerard Depardieu, I mean, oh my God, this is a guy who's a big unit himself. And I think the best thing in that Vin Diesel movie, Babylon AD.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't thought about that one in a little while.
That's a good little movie. A lot of people, like, I remember that came out here in 2010, and people were, oh, Vin Diesel, and to be honest, he's a mixed bag as an artist, but he has Pitch Black, he has Riddick, and definitely Pitch Black, or Pitch Black 3, which is just called Riddick, I think.
Riddick, yeah.
The best of the three, I personally think. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
It has the bad guy from, I think it's the second Bad Boys, who's just brilliant. This Spanish actor who's...
Oh, yeah.
Trying to think his name.
He was also the main bad guy in the, bringing it back to the subject, in the new Jack Ryan
Jack
series on
Ryan.
Amazon. He was
season
2.
2. Yeah. Great actor. Like, he's really, really good. But what is this? Some kind of retard bingo? But no, folks, what we were also talking about was westerns, which I'm a huge aficionado of. Lee loves them. Obviously, not only his military knowledge, but his knowledge of the period, knowledge of weaponry, and as far as firearms. I think we're going to have ourselves a bit of a ball. We've been talking about...
I was in a western a couple years ago. It was a short film, but it was... I was brought in. A friend of mine was saying, "Yeah, filming a western this week," and I'm like, "Oh, well, if they need any help, let me know." Mm-hmm. And she's like, "Well, I think they need some guns." I'm like, "Oh, how many?" She's like, "Well, it's supposed to be a gunfight, and they don't have any." And I'm like, "Well, so they need at least 2." So I contacted the director, kind of an awkward dude, and I said, "Hey, I hear you need some prop firearms for your western here, and I can get my hands on." I think I ended up getting about 5 or 6 for him, and then. He was able to find a blank firing pistol. And so we filmed the thing, and I showed up on set. He hadn't seen me yet, but, long hair, and I just happened to bring along some clothes. So I was thinking I'd be background. He sees me, he sees the costume I put together, and he's like, "Hey, you want to be the bad guy?" And I'm like, "Yes." So I'm sitting there, and I'm dressed like a cowboy, and I got a 6-gun on my head, just a beautiful, kind of silver-plated Colt Peacemaker, long barrel, everything like that. Mm-hmm. And, I got the, kind of a Western-style fedora on my head. I'm feeling good. And they're like, "Hey, I got a horse over here. Can you just ride around in the background? We need to establish you." And I'm like, "Yeah, you can do that." They put me on the horse.
Yep.
And after a couple takes, they're like, "Hey, why don't you take a couple minutes?" I'm like, "Huh?" And they're like, "You smiling too much?" I'm sorry, but you put a 6-gun on my head, a cowboy hat on my head, and sit me on a horse? I'm a huge 40-ish man. I think I was 40 at the time. I could not stop being 8 years old, man.
Oh yeah.
I was playing a cowboy, and I loved every second of it. It was great. So
nice. So obviously Lee's into westerns. We talked about doing Open Range, Silverado, and even the Civil War film Gettysburg.
Oh, yeah. A couple of my favorites.
And they really are films that I think, they're long films, folks. Most Westerns are. But a little bit like, actually, I've got to say, the television experience too. Lonesome Dove. Wow.
Oh, we're definitely doing that one.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that was, I was kind of talking with Adam before, said that Gettysburg was like one of the bonding experiences with my stepdad and I. It was like one of the 5 movies that we agreed on.
Yeah.
And one of the other ones was Lonesome Dove. And I remember him, when they did the rebroadcast of it, he had seen it and I hadn't. And he brought me in for the scene where he's like, "Lee, you got to see this. You got to see this." And it's the scene where one of the Union soldiers is trying to steal the horse from Newt. Mm-hmm. He starts hitting him with a whip. And here comes Tommy Lee Jones. Before anyone really knew who Tommy Lee Jones was, he'd done like Nathan Hayes and like a couple movies, and he's just at that time he was one of those that guy actors, and he just starts barreling down the street on his horse, rams it into this cavalry officer, baits the snot out of him with like a pair of blacksmith tongs.
Yeah.
And he looks around at everyone and he's like, "Can't stand bad manners in a man." Just great. And then later on, they end up hanging Robert Urich because he happened to be riding with outlaws. And, I just remember my stepdad just kept on repeating the line. He's like, You ride with outlaws, you die with outlaws.
Good old Jake. Yeah. Oh, look. And folks, if you haven't seen it, with Carl Urban and oh god, who's the other actor? It'll come to me.
Steve Zahn.
Steve
I got
Zahn.
to meet him last year.
What's he like? Comanche Moon. We're talking about, folks. The prequel. What's he like?
He's actually a really nice guy, very humble. He was the special guest at a film festival that we hold here every year in the Twin Cities. He's kind of a patron of it now.
Wow.
But at the end of this big kind of dinner, I just kind of walked up to him because I love that movie. Of course, I love That Thing You Do. But there was another movie that he was in called Out of Sight.
Yes.
Just a fantastic movie. And there's a moment in there where, because he's a criminal and he kind of gets in with even worse criminals, they kind of have him kill some people. And throughout the whole movie, he's kind of this doofus, California dude wearing his shades.
Yeah.
And when he takes the shades off, he becomes a completely different person. And you realize, like, that's the turning point for his character. And it's like this beautiful thing. And the first time I got, given a really good, juicy role where I had to do something emotional, like, I actually channeled that scene. And I told him, I'm like, dude, I stole this from you. But I also told him at this dinner, I'm like, the only actor that could have played Augustus McCrae is you. Like, you just did justice to that character so well. And I'm blanking on the actor that played him, but
Robert Duvall.
Yeah, I kept on thinking of Tom. You're not a wartime consigliere. Like, all I could think of for him. But he was also in The Godfather. So like Steve Zahn is overlooked in a lot of ways, and he gets the funny roles, but the dude has some acting chops, and he's just a very nice, approachable dude. Really humble about everything that he's been able to do, and really appreciates it. He's been doing he's the dad in the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series now, so not something that I watched, but I was made aware of it through this. And really nice. He was on a couple episodes, I think, of Modern Family and a few other, but good actor. And that movie was just heartbreakingly good. Like, to do justice, like no other versions, because they had like a Return of the Lonesome Dove that was not good. They had the Lonesome Dove series that was not good. This is the only thing that they ever did that lived up to the promise of the original Lonesome Dove. Because
you had Val Kilmer in it, you had that Australian actress, which names completely escapes me. I've met her too, she's lovely. But the one that really got me was, Carl was great as Tommy Lee. Like, Carl's pretty good. He's either hot or cold if he gets it right. Like, he got Dredd bang on. Like, he just did Clint Eastwood and it worked. Him as DeForest Kelly in Star Trek is just, it's literally DeForest. Like, it's brilliant. Like, he's a brilliant mimic. And there was enough of Tommy Lee in there. But them sort of being Jedi mentored, if you like, by Val Kilmer's character was quite good.
Yeah.
But what I really like Steve Zahn in is something that a lot of people don't like. And this is the quandary. The Clive Cussler's piece, of course, Sahara, with my pal Matthew McConaughey.
I love that movie.
As El Giardino.
That was so much fun.
That was a great movie, man. That was my 2005 movie, mate. I tell you, love it.
Yeah, when they set off the bomb, they both look at each other. There's no way that shit worked. Are you thinking Panama? Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna do it Panama.
Why don't you call it Grenada? Well, because we thought we were in Panama. Penelope Cruz looking good. I mean, William H. Macy. I mean, that whole movie, start to finish. Maybe another one we need to put on that list there.
I think so. Look, that was the first Blu-ray I bought with Sahara because I just wanted that film experience. Because, to be honest, like a lot of people went, "Oh, should have been Hugh Jackman playing, the role of Dirk Pitt." I'm like, hell no. Like, McConaughey might not be the stature of Dirk Pitt. It's a little bit like Jack Reacher, I suppose. It's not what's in the book. The book's always going to be bigger than life. That's just what Clive Cussler was. And I think his son's taken over now. Dirk Cussler, believe it or not, folks. There you go. But what's great about those books is that you learnt a lot. It's a little bit like, this is why I love sci-fi and stuff being part of Fantatrax, folks, like Star Wars nut. But I don't really like reading the stuff. I like reading about real stuff. And Clive Cussler might be fiction, but when he's doing things about sunken ships, Valhalla Rising and stuff like that, that's all in there. You're learning about history and real history, which is on here on the planet, and the stuff that you're seeing, like particularly in Sahara is a perfect example. A ironclad ship from the States somehow got into the middle of Africa. How could that happen? Well, it could. I mean, they were escaping the southern places at the time where the Union were coming in, and the Confederate dollar gets me too. The way that's set up, and straight away, William H. Macy. Oh, I don't want to hear about that bloody Confederate dollar again.
Yeah.
And the ironclad ship. But I think they changed it up a bit because Sahara, well, Dirk Pitt, he's meant to be an Air Force guy, from what I remember.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a long time since I read those books, but I think you're right.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, though, that Jack Reacher was not appropriately cast.
Yeah, no, look, Tom Cruise, but to be honest, I'm hot and cold. Some stuff I love Tom Cruise in. Some stuff I just cannot stand him in. War of the Worlds, like it because it's against type. He's playing a real prick, and he plays it well. But Jack Reacher, no, it needed to be a taller guy, a bigger guy, a proper military-looking dude.
Yeah, well, and it's not just because he's described as that, but it's because his whole character is based on, the caution that he takes by being that large.
Yes.
And, the fight scenes, I will say they're great fight scenes, but they're Tom Cruise fight scenes where, of course, he wins.
Yeah.
And you know that it's because it's choreographed.
Mm-hmm.
When you have, a good fight with a big actor that can fight, speaking as one myself, I want to see of course they win because he is an unstoppable maelstrom of death and nobody's fought that kind of person before. And seeing, not just like Hulk smash kind of fight, but like something skillful, which is a big part of Jack Reacher.
Yeah, I mean, he's an ex-military guy. He's military police, if I remember right. He's going to be taught. Obviously, there's the military weaponry side of it, but a lot of it's going to be containment and using your body as that weapon, that vessel, to do that. So a lot of it's going to be short circle jiu-jitsu, stuff like that, which they didn't do in the movie. They end up using that stuff from Batman Begins and all that. The Casey fighting method.
I think it's more because Tom Cruise just kind of wants that stuff for his reel. He's like, I want it to look like this instead of like I want to be the character.
Yeah, true. But it would look more like John Wick, for real. Yeah.
Which, I love John Wick.
Oh, yeah. And I know a certain Kevin Reed in there writes or likes it over there, too, in Santa Barbara. You love it over there, don't you, Kev? There you go.
Man, that just sounds just like him, dude.
It does. Hey, man. Hey, man. But they just, you get down to it, right? They got it right on John Wick because they had the right team. I can't remember the name of the stunt team that do it, but they're all from The Matrix. And they're all working on the
Matrix. You got Trazelski, you got Eusebio.
Yes.
Or John Eusebio, you've got, I know Casamassa was involved in that for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
What's his name? The guy that did Scorpion and Sub-Zero in Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat, yeah. JJ, what's his name? Oh, he was on the Scott Adkins show just a couple of weeks ago, and he's now a director. JJ, oh god, the name will come to me. But he's one of Adkins' best friends now. Because he's done so much work with him. He's a Taekwondo champion, believe it or not. I know somebody that likes a bit of Taekwondo, folks.
Yeah, I know one or two things about that.
I've got to say too, folks, we're going to a quick dive in a few seconds in the news segment. We're going to chat a little bit of martial arts before we get into this is going to be a big one, folks. We're really going to spend some time on Red October as well. But before we do that, quickly let you know where to catch the show, even though we're about 30 minutes in.
Jeez.
You can catch us on, of course, FPN, which is at fpn.podbean.com. Check me out at The Lee Mullet on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, where you'll find this show. Of course, you'll find the Mullet Guild on there when we chat June, which is sporadic. It's not every week. We've got Making Treks, a Star Trek fan podcast bi-monthly in there. You'll enjoy that too, with, of course, my dear pal Mark Newbold and others in there too, and music by the one, the only James Semple. Now, where can we find you out there, Lee?
Well, you find me in his baffles, Seaman Boma. No, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at The Way of the Way. Reach out to me on Facebook. I'll probably talk your ear off. Surprise, surprise. I'm just feeling bad for poor Kevin right now, or poor Kyle, like trying to edit this episode. He's like, wait, what movie are we doing on this one?
What are they doing? Or maybe they're doing this one, folks. Maybe they're doing Tour of Duty. Actually, folks, I've got to switch into Tour of Duty for a second. I have the new edition, which has come out here in Australia, which is the 3 seasons. But believe it or not, there's a little thing on the bed that says including new music for Tour of Duty. Now, when I hear that straight away, I went, new music? I don't want new music. I want the soundtrack that was with the original series. And guess what, folks? All those great 60s songs are gone. All of them. Every single one of them is gone from the tracks. Instead, you have a cover band. And the cover band is playing these songs terribly. Like it detracts from the experience. The whole experience of watching a Vietnam movie or a TV show is to see the Rolling Stones, Deep Purple, all those great bands, you know?
Well, didn't that show start with Painted Black? Wasn't that the theme song on there?
Painted Black, yeah. It was a modified version of Painted Black, which I think the band did for the show, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, it was the drum beat, the start, the whole machine gun for it, dum, 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 and it got...
Yeah.
And the thing is, now it's got this Asian drum beat to it, and then it breaks into this weird... It was actually... The music that used is from the credits that were on the original series. They're using that on the front. It's a really strange thing, folks. I've got to say, I love the TV show. I love Sarge, LT, the rest of the team in there. But it's a hard rewatch in this new version, I've got to say.
Yeah. There's a couple movies like that. And it's the... Speaking of somebody that, you know, will hopefully be getting millions and millions of dollars off of royalties. There's a big chunk of time where you wouldn't get the royalties off of, you know, any of your music being used, especially in, you know, the secondary market.
Yeah.
And I think it comes down to Tour of Duty not wanting to pay people for the music that was being used. And so, and, you know, honestly, if I'm a musician and I have a product that has value to it, I'm going to charge for it.
Oh, totally.
So like I see why it's not on there, and it's frustrating, but you know, I got to stick with those guys like me that are performers.
Definitely. No, I mean, money. They should be paid for it. Which brings us, I've got to say, this is not a Star Wars show, folks, but we're going to talk about it because, quite honestly, it pisses me off. I'm going to say it, you know. Sorry, folks, I am going to say pisses me off here today because it does. As somebody that, if you're a creator, you want to be paid for your stuff. And right now, Disney are doing something that's really, really wrong. I mean, really wrong. So Disney, hope you're listening because I'm not the only one voicing this. A lot of professionals are right now. Where the original Expanded Universe author, the one that actually penned Star Wars A New Hope, the novel, ghostwritten, Alan Dean Foster, the famous science fiction author who was a Star Trek writer, wrote the Alien trilogy in the adaptations. Also did a lot of work on Riddick as well. And, of course, the new Star Trek films and the new Star Wars movies out there too. He's done, and, of course, Splitter in the Mind's Eye, the big one that he got rolling.
Which is where we get the Kyber crystal the first time.
100%, buddy.
First time that's mentioned. A little bit of a change up in the modern canon. But, yeah, I read those books, you know, in my bedroom when I was supposed to be going to sleep when I was a kid, you know, and... Dude deserves his money, you know, especially if they're still selling the books. I mean, if they were sitting there dry, but no, like, those books are still selling.
Yeah, look, 100%. If their stance is that they own this product now and the contract was with Lucasfilm back in the day, with George, right, with the original one, and their contract doesn't stand, well, that's product they're still selling. They're still selling it under the Legends banner. I'm afraid that, unfortunately, 100%, they need to reward him for his... Particularly, right now, he's not well, folks. He actually has cancer as well. So, I mean, he's at a stage where he needs all the money he can get.
Yeah. Well, especially if people are still buying Splinter of the Mind's Eye, and I know there was a big uptick after Rogue One.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he's writing all the books, you know, doing everything. Like, he deserves to be paid for the product that Disney is making money And, Lord knows they're making it hand over fist.
Oh, yeah.
They talk about Solo being a flop, and it made $450 million at the box office. Like they're doing okay. Star Wars is making money, and Lord knows they've made enough of it off of me. But yeah, definitely pay him. And also, it's time to start paying David Prowse's estate. He got hosed by George Lucas after Return of the Jedi, and was banned from all the official Star Wars celebrations, never got the royalties like everybody else did on Return of the Jedi, because George Lucas said that, no, it's not making money yet, so technically there are no royalties because there are no profits. He sold the damn movie, or the entire franchise, for $5 billion. There's some profits on there. Disney's already made the money back. There's some profits in there. Pay Prowse, pay Alan Dean Foster.
Oh, definitely. Now, I've got to say, too, George, who's not a fan of Disney, obviously, but through what they apparently done under his thing, he sent a sequel trilogy outline, and now we know exactly what happened. So, the original version of all of this was that Darth Maul never died. He stayed out. Mm-hmm. After Palpatine character, he basically come from, because obviously we see in the Clone Wars in Solo that he's running this underground network of criminal and sort of basically an underworld, if you like. And George's idea was, here's something interesting, folks, you probably don't know about. I haven't even talked about this on Panther Tracks yet, so here's a new one for you. Star Wars Underworld, the live-action show, was actually going to be about Darth Maul that he was going to do. So this is the live-action one that George wanted to do in the late 2000s, before he sold the franchise. He was planning to do a live-action show which actually branched between Episode 3, Episode 4, told the crime lord sort of saga, so the Hutts, obviously Black Sun, all that sort of stuff. And the big thing was that Maul was going to live all the way through it, not sleep through, but you won't see him for the original trilogy, and then just pop up a few years after Jedi, now that his former master has passed, with a new apprentice of his own, Darth Talon, and start ruling the roost, bring back the Sith, the original Sith Order. So things that are in that sequel trilogy would have still happened. So Luke obviously train a new generation. There was going to be a girl, but the girl was Leia. Leia was basically going to become a Jedi apprentice, a master, and then become Chancellor of the Republic. That's why she is the chosen one.
Yeah, and I think that would have been a good way to do it, because, I mean, Leia never really did much. She's a great character, but in terms of, we first see her in Episode 4, and she talks smack to Vader, she talks smack to Tarkin, shoots a couple stormtroopers, but sits most of the movie.
Yes.
She sits waiting to be rescued.
Yeah.
And then she sits watching the battle unfold over Yavin. She's... The character is fantastic in Empire. Mm-hmm. But again, she just shoots a couple stormtroopers. While everybody else is fighting the AT-ATs, Han is, flying the Falcon.
Yeah.
Lando, figures out the rescue. She was never given anything to do.
No.
Even on Endor, she gets shot. Chewie has the idea, everybody, she never got anything to do. And then they kind of did the same thing to her in the new trilogy.
Well, I totally did.
And if they had done something to make her a better character, or give her character something else to do, because really we just see her in the jungle. We don't see her as leading the Republic. We see her as saying, "Okay, Finn, go."
Pretty much.
And Admiral Akbar doing everything.
That's right, folks. I mean, it would have been a much more heroic end for Leia. The way things have gone out, I think they've done the best they can with, obviously, Carrie Fisher passing. But I've got to also say, folks, if you haven't seen the latest episode of The Mandalorian, then you need to, because this one shows you what the show's really about.
Yeah, and boy, I'm not going to say anything else. Because this one I thought was just going to be a little actioner, but boy, did they go somewhere.
And look, put it this way, folks. You're going to freeze frame a certain scene. Actually, maybe two scenes, to be honest. But one scene in particular, and then you're going to zoom in. And when you zoom in, you're going to think it's somebody, when it could be somebody else, or it could be somebody smaller. And when I zoomed in, it looked like somebody completely different. That way.
Yep.
So I think we're in for some interesting stuff. Of course, a certain M word was dropped, which is highly controversial from the prequels, which we'll see on that. But I'm not going to say anymore because it'll spoil it. And let's just save that for What a Piece of Junk of Star Wars podcast on the FPN with Derek and Scott.
Yeah, and I'm trying to get, a buddy of mine was in season 1, and I'm trying to get us on. It's just been a scheduling nightmare with COVID and everything going on. But yeah, he was actually in the first episode directed by Bryce Dallas Howard. He was one of the villagers.
Oh, nice. Bring him on Down Under, mate. We'll put him on Fan for Down Under if you want.
Definitely, dude. Yeah, he'd love that. So, he's even crazier than me. I think we'll have way too much fun.
Awesome, let's do that. All right, folks, so we're going to get into it. You've had your news. We're going to get into the hunt for Red October here in, of course, the Lethal Pub. I've got my nice little Pilsener ready to go. What are you drinking tonight, my friend?
Alrighty, mate. Time to go down to the pub for a pint, chat, action movies and more. Here on the Lethal Mullet podcast.
Oh, I'm having a little bit of Basil Hayden's. Nice small batch Kentucky bourbon, little hints of cinnamon and caramel. Getting a little cold up here in the frozen tundra of Minnesota, and boy, this will put a little spring back in your step.
Nice.
A little hair on your chest and lead in your pencil, as they say.
That's what we want. All right, folks, we're going to chat about a movie which I think is really fitting for Sean Connery himself. Before we get right into it, we're going to quickly chat about Tom Clancy's novel, because I think just to get a bit of a foundation about what this is about. Red October is the debut novel of Tom Clancy, and it was, of course, published October 1, 1984, and this was by the Naval Institute Press. It is about the Soviet submarine captain Marco Ramius, obviously in the movie, played by Sean Connery, as he goes rogue from his country with a cutting-edge, amazing ballistic missile submarine called the Red October. And of course, this is about the cat and mouse game to get the October to the US side, basically to get them free from the Soviets. Now, the idea is that this thing is got the caterpillar drive, which is silent, so they could creep up on an unsuspecting enemy, launch their weapons, and take off. But Ramius ain't having it, because he thinks no one should have this sort of power. He wants to give it to the US. And of course, there's a mutiny in this, but it's also one that's inspired by the I'm going to try and pronounce it, folks. In 1975, it was the Soviet frigate, the Zavoy. There you go. Hopefully I've said that right. But the book is classed as a techno-thriller, military science fiction, and historical fiction. It's an amazing novel, and it's one, like many others, that has many layers to it. Every time you read it, you can read it as an action espionage character piece, but also it's almost a father-son story with Ramius and Jack Ryan, which are really, I think they both inspire each other in this story, don't they, Lee?
They do, and I think I was kind of talking with Kevin about it when we kind of did our retrospective on Sean Connery. Connery just has this great schoolmaster relationship with everybody, and you hear about it through the entire movie. You know, like he trained all the boomer captains. You know, and he's like Tupolev. You know, was his star pupil, and they say that Tupolev has a special place in his heart. And Connery has that great line: "Tupolev has no room in his heart for anyone but Tupolev." Just a great line. But when they're basically playing chicken with a torpedo, he looks at Ryan. He's like, "What books? You said you wrote books. What do you write?" "I wrote a study of the tactics of Bull Halsey." "Oh, yes, I remember. I read it." "You were wrong. Bull Halsey was a moron." Just, in the middle of this thing, he's like having the school teacher moment.
Yeah.
And beautifully done. And you see, he's Sean Connery, but he's playing a character beautifully. And like the choices that he's making to be this, kind of the papa of the boat, and the way that he inspires people, the way that he talks to people, that wonderful scene with Sam Neill when they're talking about, "I think I shall go to Wyoming, perhaps I will need 2 wives, at least, or Montana, not Wyoming, and just that he has this command, and after the first 30 seconds, you don't even take into account that he's playing a Russian with a Scottish accent.
Oh, no. And particularly the one plot device that they do in this is that they start in Russian, folks. It's a little bit like Valkyrie. Tom Cruise stole it with Bryan Singer when they did Valkyrie. But you start out in the language and then you focus onto the words or onto a certain image, then pull back, and all of a sudden it's like that we can understand what's going on because it converts to English.
Yep. And they do it very nice and seamlessly, kind of like, me and Kevin and Kyle were talking about the 13th Warrior, how they do that nice kind of seamless, like, okay, now we speak the same language sort of thing. Yeah. And just that funny little moment when they're all together in the sub. You got the crew of the Dallas, finally remember the name of the boat, and, taking command of the Red October, and they're all just kind of like staring at each other, and Jack Ryan looks to the weird engineer dude, and he's like, hey, can I have one of those cigarettes? And he starts choking on it because Russian cigarettes are greasy. I've had them. They're crazy. Wow. And they start laughing, and looks at him. He's like, oh, buckaroo. Like just the little things. And like they have these moments built in with such good nuance.
Oh, yeah.
It's not overly manufactured, but it's completely natural that those relationships exist. And it's, despite it being a completely unbelievable situation, you believe every moment of it.
Yeah, there's a certain gravitas which brings you back to it. Now, folks, I've got to say we were wrong on the year. This is 1990 that this came out, and of course, produced by Mace Neufeld, but directed by the director of Predator and of Die Hard 3, Die Hard with a Vengeance, the best of the Die Hards. John McTiernan. And Die Hard, yes, he did Die Hard too. But yeah, so folks, this is one with screenplay based on by Larry Ferguson and Donald E. Stewart, based on the Tom Clancy role. Music by Basil Polidoris of Conan the Barbarian. It was released on March 2, 1990. It's 135 minutes long, and the budget was about $30 million. Now get this. The box office takings worldwide, $200.5 million. A little bit of a success, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd say they did all right for themselves. I wouldn't mind getting a little over 6 times my money back. I'd take that any day of the week.
Not bad, isn't it? The fact that, too, at this stage, we're talking about Alec Baldwin obviously just only did one of the Jack Ryans. He was signed up to do more, but he pulled out for, I think it was a play he was going to do or something along those lines. He was also up for Batman back in the day as well, too. So this is about the same time. But, I mean, you can't have him. Michael Keaton's Batman, yeah? Come on.
Yeah, well, and then he played prequel Batman in The Shadow.
Oh, I think that's a movie we might have to do, by the way.
Well, especially because, I mean, if you take The Shadow and you stretch it out a whole lot, like The Hobbit style, you have the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy in that movie.
Oh, you do. You pretty much do.
Yeah,
and
every plot point is in there, including, the crazy professor with the bomb that, like...
Well, except a better bad guy, John Lone from The Last Emperor, and of course, The Hunted. Now, I know you know that movie with Christophe Lambert. You've got to know that ninja movie.
Oh, yes, I do. I love
John
that movie
Lone.
to the depth of my soul.
She has seen my face. She must die. Honestly, he's just got that... Now, a lot of people don't know that John Lone is an amazing martial artist because of his Peking opera background, working with Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung, Yun Bio, and the whole team. Donnie Yen, obviously, in there too, but that's where he was trained. And then he, instead of doing the Hong Kong route, went, I'm going to go to the States. And became this amazing character.
Didn't he do Madame Butterfly? He was in that one.
He did, yeah. He did that. I think he's in Year of the Dragon as well. God, John Lone turns up in some amazing movies. Shadow, obviously. But the one that really did it for me was working alongside our certain great Aikido stylist and Iaido instructor as well. He's amazing. Of course, Tatsu from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The name escapes me.
Shishiro Obata.
Yeah, Abata-san. Yeah, Abata-sensei. Yeah. Amazing guy. And obviously he turns up in Showdown in Little Tokyo.
Yeah. But I do love, they just have like that little moment. I like your suit. Where did you get that? Oh, it's Brooks Brothers. Is that in Uptown or Midtown? Uptown. You're a maniac. Just like, the delivery on that is probably my favorite thing that Alec Baldwin ever said until he played Jack Donaghy. And I believe that Jack Donaghy is just Lamont Cranston reincarnate.
He is. All right, folks, let's get into it. We're going to chat about the cast. Sean Connery plays Marco Ramius. We've probably said enough about that. The commanding officer of the Red October, the SSBN. Alec Baldwin is the first Jack Ryan, CIA intelligence analyst, author, and professor of naval history at the Naval Academy. What do you reckon of him in the role compared to the others you've seen play Jack Ryan?
He's still my favorite. Reading the books, I can see that Harrison Ford more matches the character as it was described by Tom Clancy, but I cannot. When I read the books, until I get to maybe like Executive Decision, I'm still in my head seeing Alec Baldwin. Even when I'm reading like Patriot Games and Clear and Present Danger, like it is an Alec Baldwin thing. I think that Affleck was forgettable, so was Chris Pines.
Yes.
I'm liking the new series, but I'm wondering why they're straying from so many of the characters. I mean, you do have Jim Greer, but you've got like his special forces buddy isn't John Kelly or John Clark, depending on which alias he's using. Yeah. You know, they had the perfect opportunity to bring Ding Chavez in. You know, they don't have Ed Mary, Pat Foley, all that sort of stuff. But you know, getting back to Jack Ryan, I think that he set a stage that there was just a dorky comfort in his role that I think Harrison Ford might have been a little bit too confident with.
Yeah, well, I think what happened with Harrison is that, again, it's a little bit like the other thrillers he's done. Maybe Mosquito Coast got him the bug, where I think he became like he had a say in a lot of the direction of not just his character, but the plot, the adventure, everything like that. He builds it to his, his skills and talent as an actor. And that probably doesn't compute to what was in the books.
Well, I noticed a thing with Harrison Ford after Regarding Henry, which is a great movie.
Yeah.
But it seems like all the characters he plays are Henry. It's just the way that he plays, kind of baffled.
Yes.
A little bit, kind of, but still like sure that he's in the right place. Like there's just not a lot of variance in his acting, really, until What Lies Beneath, which he did, I want to say around 2000, maybe 99. The movie he did with Michelle Pfeiffer. Suddenly he's playing another character again. He started to bring Indy back a bit in Crystal Skull, but it wasn't 100%. It was like Indy's, brother.
Yeah.
And I think that, as an actor, you always make choices, and, sometimes you do get kind of pigeonholed into a role. But I don't think that with Indy 4, even I think the best performance that he had in the last 20 years really was episode 8 or episode 7. Because he went back to the character and he was actually able to embody somebody that wasn't just Harrison Ford. And so many characters were Harrison Ford rather than who they were for the bulk of 20 years.
I've got to say, even more so that than even, Deckard. Like he changed Deckard. Deckard wasn't Harrison Ford. Ridley pushed him. Yeah. Really pushed him. And when he got into working with the director of, obviously, Dune, and there's another Dune tied to this cast, folks, we'll talk about in a second. One of the other cast members of Red October. But, he underplayed it to a certain extent, but there was that amalgamation that whether he's a replicant or not still playing in there, and, Scott could still... Scott's producing this thing, but he's kind of like, just let Harry play with it, and I'm kind of like, no, make it out straight away. He is a replicant, which was the whole idea of that thing, is that he's a robot, and they were able to procreate a living being, which they did. That's the whole point of that. So to me, Alec Baldwin's much better, and the character's naive. He's a naive analyst. He's not an action guy. He's not a guy that goes out on location and does stuff, which makes it interesting. The other one, we've got Joss Ackland playing Andrei Lysenko, the Soviet ambassador to the United States. a lot of his work is alongside an amazing guy. We're talking about the original Dirk Pitt from Raise the Titanic. No, you know I was going to do this one. Richard Jordan also is Duncan Idaho in David Lynch's Dune. Amazing actor. And of course, let's just say it, Gettysburg, he has the best final scene in.
True enough. I would say either him or the guy that played the evil colonel in
Stephen
Avatar.
Lang. Stephen Lang. Yeah, he played Pickett, didn't he?
Those two. Yeah, Stephen Lang. He was Pickett.
Yeah, Pickett.
But like those two, when Pickett lost his entire division trying to take the hill from the 20th Maine, and then you've got Lowell Armistead, facing like his best friend, and like this beautiful moment where they're talking about before they went to war, and like knowing that they might have to face each other someday, and you just realize that like all of these young men, because of ideals and what they thought they believed in, died at each other's hands. Yeah, whether directly or through command, and it's really just you can sympathize with the people even though you can't sympathize with the reasons for the war, and it's remarkably even-handed and a remarkably touching movie. But both of those guys had fantastic. And until you said that, I completely blew past that he was Armistead. I did not even realize that until just now. So thank you for expanding my movie knowledge, which was obviously lacking.
And I've got to throw in an Easter egg there, folks, while we're at it. Two Easter eggs. First of all, quickly, Joss Ackland, Lethal Weapon 2, diplomatic immunity. It's just been revoked.
Immunity revoked.
And the other one, of course, is Morgan W. Shepard, great Star Trek actor, Babylon 5 actor as well, many other things, The Prestige, you name it, this guy's done it. And of course, Star Trek, J.J. Abrams, he goes, Spock, you have been brought to the Science Academy. Great guy. But of course, his best role is in Gettysburg when he knocks on the door, of course, of the great General Lee, and says to General Lee, I told him, sir, that I could take that damn hill, but he wouldn't let me take it. He said, no, you will stay where you are. I told him I could take that damn hill. There you go.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and that whole scene is just, leading up to that, because you got, we were talking about him earlier, Sam Elliott playing John Buford.
Oh, such a great
and
role.
realizing he's like, I can see it as clear as day. There it is. A high ground, and they're going to be sitting on it. So I disobeyed my orders, and just doing like just hold them off at the fence, at the road, so that Josh Chamberlain could get up on top of Little Round Top.
That's
and,
it.
Like all the stuff that they go into, because anybody else would have made this a story about maybe Lee and Longstreet and maybe Josh Chamberlain, but everything wrapped around that.
Oh, yeah.
All the little stuff. I mean, it's just a beautiful movie.
It is, folks. And stay tuned. We will do it over the Christmas holidays sometime, too. All right, so folks...
I just wonder what movies we'll be talking about while we're talking about that movie.
Yeah, no, right. Yeah, bit of an Easter egg and detour there, folks. I'll quickly race through this cast. Here we go. Tim Curry is Dr. Petrov, the medical officer. Obviously, he's got some great roles in that one, too. The political officer who has a short end, played by Peter Firth. I wonder if he's related to Colin. We've also got James Earl Jones as Admiral James Greer. And, of course, continues into the next films where you'll find that he's reunited with Han Solo. That's right, folks. There you go. Yep. Jeffrey Jones as Skip Tyler, a former submarine commander who identifies, obviously, Red October's propulsion system. Richard Jordan, as we've talked about, he plays Jeffrey Pelt, the NSA advisor, National Security Advisor. Sam Neill plays Borodin, Captain Borodin. There you go. There's my Russian for you, folks. Commanding officer of the Konolov SSN. The Fred Dalton Thompson plays Admiral Painter, commander of the Enterprise, carrier battle group. But the amazing, you folks, you will know him from an amazing Vietnam movie where he played Doc. Courtney B. Vance plays Petty Officer Jones. It's in my baffles, folks. It's in my baffles.
Yep. And that's the character you want to watch if you rewatch this movie. Just watch Jones, because he's the hunting dog that finds the prey. Like, he is so perfectly done, and it's so easy to kind of overlook him through all the powerhouses in this. But again, the movie doesn't work without him.
Oh, no, it totally doesn't. And of course, you might know him from a certain Vietnam movie where he goes, "It don't mean nothing, man. Not a thing. It don't mean nothing, man." Do you know that movie?
Platoon? No.
No, it's on a hill. It's on a big hill. That might be a clue.
Oh, Heartbreak Hill?
Hamburger Hill.
Yeah. I'm thinking Heartbreak Ridge, the...
the Clint Eastwood movie. That's a great movie. Also, we have, as Loganov, the cook on the Red October, Thomas Arana, which you might know from Tombstone, plays one of the roles in that. But better known as 2IC, to Gladiators, of course. He plays the Roman officer who pretty much takes Maximus and goes, "I'm going to kill your children and your wife, and you are going to go into hiding."
Mm-hmm.
He's not bad. He's also done a Van Damme movie, if I remember right, too. But one of the pretty much the others are TV actors, apart from Larry Ferguson playing Ferguson, chief of the boat Dallas. Obviously, Scott Glenn, amazing actor. Silverado, obviously Silence of the Lambs. Done some work, of course, in Japan on some, I think it was called The Challenge, with Sonny Chiba, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And, of course, the one, the only, the Doc from Next Generation plays Kathy Ryan. Gates McFadden. This might have been, in addition, the director's father, John McTiernan Sr., has a credit cameo as one of the attendees at Ryan's briefing with the NSA.
I will also, there's two other actors that I want to point out.
Yep.
Ronald Gutman, who played Lieutenant Melekin.
Yep.
Or Melchin. He is one of those that guy actors, but he was most recently on Preacher. He played Dennis, the son of Cassidy, the vampire. Mm-hmm. But he's just in all sorts of different movies, and always very interesting. But just a really good actor. And then there's one other actor that should not in any way be a stranger to your listeners or mine. Sven Lee Thorson. He's chief of the boat on the Red October.
Oh, yeah.
He was in Conan the Barbarian. He was, I believe he was Thorgrim or Rexor. Yeah. But he was in Mallrats, which was filmed about 5 miles from where I'm sitting right now. He's just one of these guys that's just everywhere, but he's just this big, brutish Swede. Really funny guy. But he was also in a TV show that a friend of my dad's worked on, that some of the really old and obscure people might recognize, Captain Power.
And Soldiers of the Future. I remember, actually, I didn't have it. I think it was one of my best friends had we had the figures. We had a couple of the figures. So we used to have them in front of the TV when the lasers came on, but you had to have his starship, his like fighter, and you could shoot it at the screen, and when it was on there, it reacted.
Yep, I had those too, and that was my that being able to shoot back and forth at the screen. That was actually developed by my dad's friend Bill Seinhorst. So he's passed on, but I just remember thinking that was the coolest thing, knowing somebody that made a TV show that I had action figures for. But both those guys are great, and gotta throw it out again for Scott Glenn as Bart Mancuso. Just such a perfect submarine captain. He is in command of the deck when he's on there. Like the actors are respecting him as the captain, and beautifully done. And of course, James Earl Jones. I was never here.
I don't know if it's going to show. It's probably not showing. It's too light. We're missing one amazing movie that Jesse Ventura was on, and of course his bad guy. They're both leads in it. Sven Ole Thorson, Abraxas, Guardian of the Universe.
Oh yeah.
We might have to do that one. That's a terrible film, but it's so terrible. It's heading towards that Flash Gordon, so bad it's good territory. Directed by Damian Lee, but first of all, the hand cannons in it are fantastic. But Jesse really tried to act, because apparently this was an Arnold script. This was an actual Arnold movie that was going to happened just after Kindergarten Cop. But he said, "Look, Jesse, you take it. I don't want it. It looks like crap." And Sven said, "I will be in it." And Sven did it. Sven has a 1.5 minute monologue at the end of the film. It is hilarious. Hilarious. Like it's like just some of the stuff they talk. Now, one of the great thing is his role. Sven Thorsen's called Secundus in it. Secundus actually comes from Secundus, the planet in Dune. So whoever wrote this was actually a sci-fi nut. But when they're talking about they're testing for the anti-life equation, it is hilarious. Folks, you have to watch this movie.
But it's also Latin for junior.
Oh, it is too, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. But getting back to Jesse Ventura, he was our governor for a while, and I've actually got to meet him a few times.
What's he like?
And he's this really great guy. The most recent time, it was at a kind of a horror movie convention that we do here called Crypticon every October in the Twin Cities. And I usually do the panel on weapons and stunts and how those things are done. And, we're kind of both in the back waiting to go on to our respective panels. And I'm like, "Hey, Governor, how you doing?" He's like, "Oh, yeah, really good, really good. How you been? I'm sure he did not recognize me, but he's really good about that. And we got to talking, and, I've read his book. I Ain't Got Time to Bleed. It's a good book. Yeah. I'll recommend reading it. But little tricks in there, but a really nice guy, a little weird, but you kind of have to be weird in Minnesota. If you're normal, you're going to go crazy.
I've got to say too, us Aussies have got a bit of an affinity with, people from Minnesota, but also the governor. And I think the big thing is no bull. Us Aussies can't, we don't like bullshit, put it that way. And there's no BS from Minnesota. So we've got a lot of time for you guys.
Yeah. Well, and nobody messes with the governor. Even like Chris Kyle, the American sniper, who we kind of know a lot of that story was inflated.
Of course.
He kind of talked about, taking Jesse down a couple pegs in his book, and Jesse went after him. And, he did it, I think, even after Chris Kyle passed away. Yeah. But with as much money as was being made on those stories, like, you can't impugn somebody, like that and get away with it.
Of course you can't, especially when it's a lie.
And I think it was, and I don't have any problem with what he did. It's like, somebody's like, I kicked his ass in a bar fight, and you've never even been in that bar or, had your ass kicked like that. I think it's an interesting thing, but that's Jesse for you.
Well, what I put it in the same, look, Chris Cole, he was, obviously in the armed forces, he was a legit guy and stuff like that. But I put anyone BSing about stuff that happened, whether it is real or not, whether it's in action or in this case with what Kyle's going on, it's right up there with the people that are dressing up in uniforms and putting fake medals on. It's against the law. I mean, that sort of stuff just can't happen. Out here, you are put away for life out here in Australia. There's no mucking around.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We don't muck around with those guys. There's actually the Vietnam vets themselves have a site where they're tracking them. There's the famous Navy SEAL guy that was on YouTube for ages, and he had a database sort of tracking these guys down, which is fantastic because they were able to track them, find out where they were, and just shut them down. Because at the end of the day, people do their honour, do their time to bring the freedoms that we have. They go out there, they put their own life on the risk for us, as whether it's this country, yours, vice versa, and the hat should be off to those guys, not these imposters.
No, definitely agree, and with Chris Kyle, it's weird because he had a resume that didn't need to be padded.
Oh, 100%. He's a legit sniper. Was it Navy SEAL?
Yeah.
Navy SEAL, if I remember right?
Yeah, he was a Navy SEAL sniper. I mean, I'm sorry, but if you got the Trident on your chest and, you're sniper qualified, you don't need to tell lies about being posted on top of the Metrodome and after Hurricane Katrina. And, it's, you're already the coolest dude in the bar, dude. You don't need to kick it up that many notches. Until 100%. Han Solo walks in, you'll always be the coolest.
Totally. Now, folks, let's look at the plot of this movie. Obviously, we spend a bit of time with the Dallas at the start of the movie where we're getting, I think the great introduction there is that Scott Glenn and the others are pretty much your rudimentary submarine crew. They're pretty damn good. The ingenuity themselves through the sonar, listening, and obviously trying to figure out what's out there. Obviously, they have a bit of a mystery. They're in the bit of time where they find there's something out there that's making weird sounds, and the fact that Courtney V. Vance's character is a sound expert too. But the thing is, the crew are kind of like, they're all like Sherlock Holmes. They're trying to figure out what this thing is. At the same time, we also jumping over to the Russian side where obviously they get this brand new piece of equipment, this amazing transport, which is just, the coolest thing since sliced bread. But at the same time, they're not sure what the Russian government really wants them to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think just the, kind of rewatching it for this, it was just in theaters here again 2 weeks ago.
Oh, nice.
And realizing how long it takes to figure out what Sean Connery is up to is really, rewatching it is hard to see because you're looking for your favorite scenes, you're remembering lines, and you're looking for all the technical stuff. But I remember watching it, and as soon as he kills the whatchamacallit, the KGB officer, I'm like, what just happened here? And then the rest of the crew, I remember them like most of the officers except for the doctor kind of falling in step on that.
Yeah.
And realizing, oh wow, this is just the, not, completely not knowing what's happening next. And then, Ryan's the one that says, son of a bitch, he's gonna defect. He's saying this in the briefing room at the White House.
Yeah.
And like this realization, and then trying to get everyone else on board with it so that they can avoid this World War III, get their hands on this technology, all this great stuff. It's such a fantastic reveal. I think that scene is really Jack Ryan's purpose in the movie.
Yeah, he's kind of, to me, like when I first watched the movie as a kid, he's obviously the window for us to look through. That's the purpose in the book. It's the purpose in this. But he's optimistic. He's willing to learn, but at the same time, he's knowledgeable from obviously being schooled and stuff like that. Something that Harrison Ford's version kind of does, but he learns a bit more through doing, I think. Whereas this is the great thing that Ben Affleck even didn't do in his version, which I actually don't mind some of Wolf is. It's not bad. Plus you get Colin Feore, who is just a freaking great actor.
And Liev Schreiber was kind of a perfect John Clark.
Yeah, actually, yeah. He's in a great Sabretooth too, by the way, in a crap movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much, eh? But what I loved about it was the youthfulness and the eager sort of way that he portrayed Jack Ryan. He's a nerd. I mean, he's a nerd about naval stuff, but he's a real nerd. But I don't think they played up the fact that he was a Marine in that version. So he's just pretty much just a book nerd in this one. Like he's somebody that's grown up around the college and stuff like that. But we've got to remember, Jack Ryan, I think, in particularly the Harrison Ford ones, really brought back that he was military.
Well, I mean, they did have that scene with Fred Thompson when he first shows up on the aircraft carrier, and Fred Thompson's like, I don't really like him wearing the colors. He's like, you see that class ring on there? Annapolis, class of 80, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, he was in a helicopter accident, finished his senior year from a hospital bed while he was relearning how to walk. That kind of, that scene, like, you couldn't put that anywhere else. Because, I mean, Greer obviously already knows him. The first part of that is really CIA. Mm-hmm. But, like, suddenly you put him into the action area, and you're like, okay, why is the nerd going there? And I think that's what set it up. Yeah. Because he was a Marine, but he wasn't. Wasn't deployed. He still did that while he was at the academy. But he's definitely worthy of wearing the uniform. And he definitely has enough training that he could shoot somebody point blank.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I think you see it obviously a little bit in Patriot games, but I think Clear and Present Danger really sort of pushes past that point. Plus, we get Raymond Cruz going, yeah, all right, yeah, which is always good. And of course, Benjamin Bratt, who's probably
and of course, I love Joaquin Almeida in that movie.
Oh, the Desperado
Latin
himself.
Jack Ryan, ooh.
And I mean, you also get in the middle of all that, you get some great acting in Clear and Present Danger by, the actor. It gets me, but he plays the deputy director or whatever it is and I mean. You know, and of course you get, damn you, sir, no, damn you. You know, you get that point. Yep. You get that pointing from Harrison, you know you're in trouble, mate. You know, it's...
Yeah, and he ended up being the director of the Impossible Mission Force in the first Mission Impossible.
He did too, he's great. But
what are you going to do, Barnes? Put a guy at the airport?
But also...
And he always plays the sleazy CIA or FBI kind of boss.
Yeah, he's always played that. And then also, of course, look, we're forgetting the big one. I'm going to say his proper name, William Dafoe. So he changed it to Willem. He did a great movie out here. He's actually done a lot of movies out here in Australia. He did Hunter down in, was it Tasmania? Hunting down the last of the Tasmanian Devils. It's a great movie, folks. You should check it out. But the great one is, of course, Daybreak. It's shot in my city. And here in the Gold Coast, about vampires, all that sort of stuff. And he played the character Elvis.
Yeah. And, of course, bringing it back to John Wick. He was John Wick's buddy in John Wick 1.
Yeah. And, of course, in Platoon, he said, hey, I'm over here. Hey.
Yeah. and he was the one that, bringing it back to the CPT, he was the one that Ben Stiller was kind of miming during that first scene. When he's getting shot up in the rice paddies,
yeah,
he's doing the Willem Dafoe falling to his knees, with the arms spread out, Christ-like. So,
it wasn't Tom Berenger's character called Barnes as well in Platoon, if I remember right, Sergeant Barnes.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, isn't it funny how it comes around? And of course, we got our first, scene of that amazing. As a captain, I think he was, Dale Dye, who's in just about every movie as a technical consultant. If they don't get Ali Ermey, they always used to get Dale Dye.
Yep. Well, in Dale Dye, Platoon, that was kind of his first big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, they've got the when they brought everybody out and tried to, teach them how to, live in the bush.
Mm-hmm.
And, they got blanks firing and Dale Dye just drops down next to Johnny Depp. And he starts shooting, and it goes up to, he's like, "Give me a magazine!" And Johnny Depp hands him people instead of like a clip, as some people might call it, but like the magazine is what you load into the weapon. And that's the story that they kind of keep talking about. But and then of course Dale Dye went on to do Flags of Our Fathers, Saving Private Ryan, and Band of Brothers, which is one of those that I watch every 2 years. Just fantastic, but he brings the realism of, or I should say, the movie-style realism of small unit combat.
Oh yeah.
To films.
You're really missing one though. You're missing one. Actually, no, two movies actually, where he said, "Casey Ryback, yeah, I knew him. He was in the teams."
Oh yeah. That would be Under Siege.
Yeah, and Under Siege 2 as well, folks. Minus, he took off the mustache for that one. He looked a little bit more youthful, but he's always had that little pencil-thin mustache in those movies. But it's interesting, obviously Marine, and then we got Ali Ermey, who was obviously too, I wonder if they all worked on Apocalypse Now, because I know Ali Ermey was on that movie as well early in his career. So I wonder whether they all sort of came together and then moved through into the current movies that we know him for.
Well, then, a young Lawrence Fishburne was in Apocalypse Now as well.
Yeah.
And he ended up in what I consider the spiritual prequel to Platoon, but he was in Cadence.
Oh, that's a great movie. Directed by Martin Sheen himself, starring Charlie. And God, I can even remember the song that there was the guys were singing in it that they had to march on.
Don't you know that's
the sound of the gang? Get back, working on the chain. Yeah. Oh, don't you know? All right, folks, we're doing Cadence.
Story, at the same convention where I was talking with Jesse, I happened to meet with Jake Busey.
Oh, wow.
Who is a hell of a nice guy.
Yeah.
And gave me this realization of paying more respect to the actors that you think are just goofy. But the movie was originally supposed to star him and his dad.
Wow.
So it was supposed to be Jake Busey and Gary Busey, and that it ended up that was when Gary Busey had his car crash.
Yeah.
And so you went from kind of the normal Buddy Holly Gary Busey to the Gary Busey we know and love today.
The crazy Gary.
Hello, pants.
Yeah.
But
Sex wax.
I became good friends with Charlie Sheen on that set because he was still there. But the stories that he had from that set, and the one that just amazed me, and I will tell this story till the day I die, when he got cast for Starship Troopers, the director wanted him to basically play the fiddle. Yeah. So he learned how to play. The director's wife was a second or third chair with the Prague Symphony Orchestra.
Oh, wow.
And she helped teach him, but also lent him her fifth best Stradivarius.
Oh, wow.
And he learned how to play over the course of several months, because it was, you got the pre-production, then you got the filming phase. And they did both of the scenes where he's playing the violin towards the end. But the amount of work, the violin is a very difficult, probably the most difficult instrument to play.
It is.
Maybe the harpsichord. And when you're listening to the movie, that's him playing. He learned how to play, just what he played, but he learned how to play it with verve and aplomb on the fifth best Stradivarius that the director's wife owned. And the pride that he had in telling that story and the beauty of it, and just the knowing that he is an actor that I kind of laugh with and honestly at a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And realizing that he puts as much and more work into his characters, in a movie that I absolutely love. Starship Troopers, I think, is amazing. And it's like, I think that they should sue, the Iraq War and 9/11 for stealing their plot.
Pretty much.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
But just a beautifully done movie. People didn't understand that it was satire at the time.
Yeah.
But the amount of work that he did for that, I think is just something that I will always respect. And the love that he had in telling the story of it. Beautiful. So I highly recommend rewatching that movie as well.
And it goes back to his dad too. Look, a lot of people, laugh at it because they straight away think Pappas or Surviving the Game or any of those crazy characters. Drop Zone was another one where he just whacked it Under Siege, But we're talking about a talented musician, an amazing musician. Actually, he's a very good singer as well.
Yeah.
Somebody who can act. He pretty much does.
Well, he played Buddy Holly in the Buddy Holly story and played all the songs. And I was like, when you can play a legend like that and do all the guitar work yourself, you're doing something special. Yeah.
And I know he's no fan of Meatloaf now because I remember seeing some type of celebrity show that showed up on YouTube where they had a bit of a, which is a shame because if anything, those two should be working together.
I would love to see that buddy cop movie.
Can you imagine that? Meatloaf's great. Is he still around? Actually, Meatloaf's still around, isn't he? I'm sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he's great. Like Black Dog's one of my all-time favorite Patrick Swayze movies, and he's great.
Yeah, him and Randy Travis, and I haven't thought about that movie in years.
There you go. There's another one we might do. Also, that movie Formula 51, where Samuel L. Jackson plays the African Scotsman.
Oh, yeah.
But he's great in it. Like, it is really well played. And then
That's another movie that I saw the first time in French.
Legit.
It was, it released, it was him and Robert Carlyle, who played Bagby in the Trainspotting movies.
Je suis français,
but it was le 51e état, the 51st state.
51st state. That's right, yeah. Had that second name to it.
But yeah, I just remember seeing that and, being completely confused by it because it was not the best translation. So, I'm sitting there trying to figure out what the hell did they just say as the rest of the dialogue is going on. But it was still pretty fun.
Who is the Scottish actor in that? I can't remember. The guy is from...
Robert Carlyle.
Robert Carlyle. There's a great Guy Pearce movie he did called Ravenous, if you haven't seen it.
Oh, I'm not.
So this is one of those you have to experience. It's, God, I can't remember whether it was set in the Civil War or roundabouts. It's in the US. but it gets bloody, and it's a character piece, and it's a bit horror. It's really in. Carlisle is firing on all cylinders. It's a movie, you need to watch, methinks.
Yeah. He will always be Begbie to me from Trainspotting.
Aye.
And Trainspotting 2, as much as that movie kind of disappointed, it was sort of like seeing old friends, but still staying in that absolute psychotic maniac character of Francis Begbie. He has the most touching scene in the movie. Actually, two scenes. He's actually reading Spud's memoirs, which is what becomes the Trainspotting book.
Yeah.
But he's also in there realizing like all the stuff that Spud realized about him. And then Begbie has this moment with his son where he takes what he learned from Spud and like has this cathartic moment. And then 30 seconds later goes back to being a raving lunatic. But yeah, fantastic actor, fantastic performance from him. He really does good in everything I've seen him in. Even Stargate Universe, which was, I loved it, but it was really tough to watch sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
He was always a commanding performance in that.
It's hard. I kind of feel like that show should have been its own thing because it's one of those things. Like Stargate is SG-1. I mean, it's even more so than the movie, which I do. I love the movie, but I mean, Richard, it's Ricky D's show. Let's face it, it's MacGyver 2.0. It's Ricky D playing Homer Simpson as a commanding officer.
And I'm sorry, but Michael Shanks just completely blew James Spader out of the water.
He did. He did.
Yeah, so good.
Let's not forget Samantha Carter.
Yep. And of course, Chris Judge is
Teal'c, indeed. You know, like, he's a lovely guy, apparently.
Yeah. Had a small role in The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, is that meant to be the Croc? I'm pretty sure it is.
Well, I know that he was one of the bad guys working for what's his name, Bane.
Bane.
He was kind of standing guard over the cops down in the sewers.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know if he's supposed to be Crack or not, but that would be a good choice.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna say
although
too.
I did like Adewale as him too in the Suicide Squad.
That's a good little movie. Like, look, you know, a lot of people. I mean, to be honest, that's not my Joker. I will say it. You know, like it's too much of a little bit of punk and this. But I love the actor. But Suicide Squad was fun. Even with that, it's still a fun movie, and I'm kind of looking forward to what James Gunn's do with it. Folks, we're going to detour back to
back to our actual subject of the movie we were talking about to commemorate the passing of a legendary actor.
This is like a train trip where we're changing tracks all the time. It's great. Now, what I love about this, we're set up everything. Everything's there. Sam Neill and all that. You kind of, once they've killed the political officer, we get straight stuck into, obviously, the mutiny. And they're heading out towards trying to find the right way to get about getting into the US lines. And of course the Dallas is kind of pretty much their way, but also hunting them is the other forces of the Russian Navy. And of course Stellan Skarsgård, now an actual a student of Ramius. It's interesting. It's kind of like the pupil after the teacher.
Yeah, and it's perfect because he's got that gravitas, and this is one of his very earliest roles.
Yeah.
I don't think I can't even think of anything that I saw him in before this, and we already kind of went on the Ronin tangent.
Yeah.
But so perfectly done, and I think that because he's got that great Swedish voice,
yes,
it sort of lent itself to being Russian, a little easier to understand, but still to an American ear, foreign enough. Which is kind of the big thing. We don't like our accents too hard to understand. But just such a good, because like he is a step behind the whole time. Like he knows what's going to happen, but he knows it because like he studied at the foot of the master.
Yeah.
But he didn't overtake him just yet. And I think that was an interesting choice to do there. Instead of like they're trying to outsmart each other, he's really just trying to figure out what Ramius is up to the whole time.
That's right. I'm just going to put my tin can on, folks. Now, I've got to say, too, what I love about this is that we get to know all those parts, but what happens is it's a cat and mouse game, this movie, and they've got the best thing, the Caterpillar Drive, which we find out through, obviously, Jack Ryan talking to the guys at the NSA, through his own teams. And then, of course, working with Jim Greer to say, hey, look, we've got something here that you just don't know what it is. It's high tech. And then the fact that they actually know that the Russians have it, they need to get it. And, of course, part of that is going to an aircraft carrier. We're going to find a certain Niles as captain of the... Yeah, that's right, folks. Niles from the Nanny is the captain of this ship.
Oh my God! Really?
Yeah. Did you know there was Niles? That's actually Niles.
I did not realize it, but I sporadically watched The Nanny. Like as soon as you said that, I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense now.
You know, when I saw it, I kind of like, because I at first thought it was the bad guy from Rapid Fire, who's in Under Siege, is obviously the CIA liaison that works with Tommy Lee Jones and what.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought it was that guy, you know, but it's not. Different guy, and then I went, oh shit, it's Niles.
Yeah, and I like when you get an actor that's so well known for something else that can do something crazy like this, because so many, speaking as a giant, I get pigeonholed into a lot of roles. I'm not complaining about the breadth, but like I don't get to stretch my legs as much. So I like the two polar sides that that this character gets to name. I'm trying to remember his the actor's actual name, Daniel Davis.
Daniel Davis. And, I tell you what, you're doing better than me, mate. I've only been in, I've been in 2 movies now, a documentary and another movie. If you look it up, folks, on YouTube, you can find a little surfing movie from the 80s called Coolangatta Gold, where I played a little background guy going, come on, get forward, go run. I had like I was suddenly like probably 9 or 10 years old. And then the other one is the Star Wars documentary, My Saga, which is airing out there now, streaming, I believe, over in the UK and the US now, so you can check that out. From my other friend, another Adam Harris of My Saga. The Harris from the Harris Palace, as we call him. That's worth checking out. But yeah, no, look, it really is. And I think what about this is when we do find that particularly when we see the Russians putting out the depth charges and stuff like that, really going after him, and he pretty much cranks it up to the point where he brings the Red October, breaches the surface, gets rid of half his, people, crew on board, and he keeps it as a skeleton crew because he just wants just the people that are going to, are willing to ruin their careers, basically, and turn criminal. That's when things really turn up, and that's when you see Sven, by the way, folks.
Yeah. Well, that's also like that great scene that that Sean has with Tim Curry. I want you to take the men. I'll lash yourselves to the deck, and we're going to take the submarine down. Once we're at a sufficient depth, we'll scuttle the ship. Sir, you'll be given the Order of Lenin for this. And it's like, you see Tim Curry is like that true believer. Yeah, he's like the one officer they couldn't talk to before, so that's why he's there. And he just gets to have that moment. And, like you get later on, you get all the guys in the raft, and they see, the explosions. Hey, Captain's scaring him out of the water. Such a, like this really cool moment. These guys are still rooting for the captain in this. And it's a fantastic scene. I love seeing Tim Curry not playing the usual Tim Curry roles. And this is just a beautiful example of that.
Yeah, it's crazy because we know him as more of a crazy guy, and particularly, when we said like things like Loaded Weapon 1, he goes, everyone calling,
Wilderness girls.
Wilderness girls.
Behind on my favorite Tim Curry is, of course, the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, yes.
Which, that was, if you were a nerd in Iowa, that's where you went every Friday and Saturday night. They had the midnight shows. You could act like you were one of the cool kids for a couple hours over at Rocky. So. Of course, and, rest in peace, the guy that ran that just passed a couple months ago. So, rest in peace there, Billy Joe. He touched the lives of a few generations of nerds in Des Moines. So.
Oh, definitely. And, of course, we got some dear pals from that out there, Star Wars related as well. Stephen Calcutt in the UK was in that movie as well. So, big shout to Stephen out there. And it's interesting, these movies do touch us, it's particularly Red October came in at a time, and I think this is what it did for me. Star Wars and all that come out, fantasy movies have come out, and I was starting to get more into seeing regular period stuff. So obviously Die Hard, I think, did it. Die Hard was the big one for me. That really paved the way, kind of like, oh wow, this could happen in real life, and that you're stuck in a building like Nakatomi Plaza, and then the same thing. They're stuck in something very similar. Submarine. They've got to try and do something. Do they scuttle it, or do they take it to the American forces and get it to their own people? That's the real delay in this, is getting that right. And obviously too, with the Dallas, they bring their submersible alongside Red October, get onside the ship, and actually meet for the first time. And to be the fact that they're talking about, of course, you're totally wrong in all your calculations. It just makes it's an even smaller world, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think for me, this is how I picture the Cold War. Like it's a game of maneuvering before you take out the piece.
Yes.
And like in the end, the Russians don't know that they have the Red October. Like in the book, they have like a little different reveal on it, but like there's just this fantastic, we got away with it. It's almost a caper.
Yeah.
Rather than a spy movie, and like everyone just kind of, you want Rabius and the boys to be able to see Montana, and you want Jack to be fine, and you want the Americans to win it over for truth, justice, and the American way, and it really comes off perfectly. And then kind of like you're talking about Joss Ackland. It appears we have lost another submarine.
Yeah, I love how he says it.
We lost contact with one of our boomers.
Another one? I love how Richard Jordan plays it up. He's kind of like, the ultimate pen pusher. He's like, another one.
Yep.
But, I mean...
And then you got that beautiful moment as they're going up the, was it the Penobscot River, I think, with the Red October.
Oh, yeah,
and, they're sitting there, they're at the con, which is, somewhere you rarely actually, like, you go in and out, but you're never really up there on the con, or the con tower.
Yeah.
But it's just Ramius and Ryan sitting there kind of looking out at this beautiful vista. And Ramius is like, I was thinking, and the sea shall grant each man new hope as sleep brings dreams of home. Christopher Columbus. Welcome to the new world, Captain Ramius. It's just that's not an actual Christopher Columbus quote. It just comes from this movie, but it's such a beautiful scene. And I love that so much. And then it just fades away into Jack Ryan being back on the plane going home to London. He's got the teddy bear for his daughter, even though it was a Surf Barbie book. But like, yeah, that was, it's just this, now Jack Ryan goes back to this weird life, or this normal life that got interrupted. And I thought that was a beautiful way to end it. Like, okay, crisis averted, we're going back to the normal world. Beautifully done.
Totally. But do you think it's kind of like, it's a little nutshell part of the story, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And Mr. O'Brien here keeps on playing with his Predator toy and his Mando bucket, and we're both grown men in our 40s, and we both still have way too many toys.
Way too many, folks. I'm going to say too, look, that's what I love about this version. It's kind of like it's a dip into the universe of Jack Ryan, and it comes back out. But as much as it's Jack Ryan, this is really Marco Ramius' story. It's him, finding peace. He's probably been out there for, whatever it is, 30, 40 years as a captain, or just as a naval officer. And, being in a submarine is not a natural thing, folks. You're in a tin can with an amazing amount of power in it. Not just talking about the weaponry. I'm talking about, it's nuclear submarine for the US. We've got diesel ones out here, folks. We're in Stone Age. But, this is something that's not only is it powerful that way, but it's something that will be powered forever because it's run on nuclear energy. It's the ultimate source, isn't it?
Well, they talk about like some of these can go underwater for 3 years if need be.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy. And you look at what was the next one? Crimson Tide.
Yeah.
Came out after this.
That's a great movie.
And it's a Los Angeles class ship. Same side that Mancuso's on, and just that one kind of, again, it's not so much about the fight, it's about the politics, and it's about avoiding the catastrophe, and the claustrophobia
Yes.
and the who's right, who's wrong sort of thing. It's I will still say this is the better movie, but I think that in terms of like a good sub movie, that's probably the only one that came close to it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, look, I think the ultimate sub movie is The Abyss. I think because it's not only submersible in terms of the little subs that are used in it, but also they actually made that tank. I mean, that tank was still available to go and see until only about a year ago. I think they destroyed it recently. But if you looked it up, you could still see like everything was there. Everything that Cameron put together in '87 when he did that movie. Wait, was it? Yeah, it would have been '87. That was all real. And here's at this point where basically the great actor we know that played Virgil in it wanted to knock out Cameron for the amount of underwater stuff that they were stressed to the nth degree on that movie. I mean, I think the only one that didn't want to knock out Cameron was Michael Biehn because he knew him so well, so he knew he's in for a bit of a hard shoot. But and I actually believe it, folks. I actually think that's one of his best roles as Lieutenant Coffee in that movie.
I'd agree with that. I think that Johnny Ringo was overdone.
Yes.
I think Kyle Reese was cookie cutter. It could have been anybody else. Hicks, probably the only thing that comes, it was Hicks and not Aliens. Probably the only role he has that comes close. And I mean, he's done a lot of stuff. I think he was in the new Magnificent Seven TV show with Ron Perlman, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a good performance. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that his role in The Abyss is probably the best one he ever did.
Totally. I mean, like, I think at the end of the day, like, it fits what he's done. But I'm going to say, folks, too, Hunt for October, what it is, it's time in a capsule. It's 1990. It was the spur of a new decade. McTiernan was in his prime. Predator, this, and then obviously Die Hard before that. It was really striking on all cylinders. It's a well-written movie. It's tight. For the amount, I mean, it's about 130 minutes, but it's tightly done.
Yeah, it doesn't feel, I know that, Kevin and Kyle kind of talk about 90 minutes being the perfect movie length. Yeah. I'm more of a Lord of the Rings extended edition. I like my 3 hours. I want the full story, but like,
same.
If you watch The Hunt for Red October, it feels like you had the Lord of the Rings experience.
Yeah.
In like a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie time frame. Like it feels shorter than it was, but you feel like you got everything out of a much longer movie that you would have. And I think it really comes into how the characters just jumped into the role in such a way that you believe them.
Yeah, totally.
They didn't spend any time explaining who anybody was.
No, they didn't.
I mean, you have that little scene with Captain Barodin, with Sam Neill, and that's really the only relationship, that is really built on.
Yes.
The rest of the officers are kind of like yes men. They're like the rest of the guys around the table in The Untouchables. But with that, I mean, that's really the only explanation that you get of Marco Ramis's relationship to his watch. And then you really only get kind of the nervous scene at the White House to kind of explain what Jack Ryan really is. And then again, that scene where Joe Don Baker, Fred Thompson, basically the same guy, is talking about, Ryan wearing the uniform. And that's really all the exposition that you get about those two characters, or all the building that is needed, and the rest of it is all through performance.
It is, isn't it?
And you get a character like Skip Tyler, played by Jeffrey Jones, who is unfortunately very infamous now, but just you perfectly believe him as like this former submarine boat captain, lost his legs, now works as a teacher, and is kind of like that expert. By the way, this is the second movie that Alec Baldwin and Jeffrey Jones did. First one being Beetlejuice.
Oh God, it was too, wasn't it? Yeah. And of course, the fact that you got Alec Baldwin in amongst all that too, Michael Keaton, but they've worked together on that. Yeah, I mean, and close together too.
Yeah, and just a great all-around movie. So there's another one we might need to do. Maybe next year for Halloween once we've gotten through the 90 that we've decided to do this episode.
Oh, wow, we've got it. I tell you, folks, look, we're going to wrap up Red October quickly here before we get on to a little bit more chat with that. Red October sits on the Hallenbach scale. That's out of 5. Hallenbach from The Last Boy Scout. That's the character Bruce Willis. Gives everything a rating out of his finger scale. I'm going to give it a solid 4.5 out of 5.
I'm going to give it a straight 5. I think that there is... this is kind of like you were saying, this is a perfect time capsule movie.
Yeah.
If you want to tell people what the 80s felt like, you can watch this movie and Breakin'. And you kind of get like the perfect polarized ending. Seeing it on the big screen last week, all the underwater effects still work. In fact, they work better than Crimson Tide's.
They did too,
now
didn't
with
they?
The upgrade, like you can sort of see that they're models in Crimson Tide, but these still look like boats. So it's, I think, a pretty fantastic movie. Up and down, kind of like I was saying about a couple weeks ago when we did Brotherhood of the Wolf. The entire cast is good instead of...
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's more than just the one or two that you've got, isn't it? It's amazing that you can get like more out of it, don't you think?
On me there.
Just cut out there for a bit, yeah. But I think you're right. Like it's the same thing. It's a strong cast from top to bottom. You've got great supporting actors, but also they come in at the right points of the movie.
Yeah, and it's so flawless that you don't realize that they're being put in there as the plot device instead of natural and organic. It's just, I really think this is, I would say this is better than Die Hard.
You reckon? Yeah, it probably is, actually. I honestly think it's between that and Red October. Not Red October, sorry. Die Hard with a Vengeance for me. And I've got to say, Last Action Hero has gained a few more fans in the last couple of years.
Yep. I will say, though, that Die Hard with a Vengeance has one of the most ridiculous lines in all of cinema. Jeremy Irons sitting there on the rooftop watching John McClane kind of follow the plan. And to nobody, he just says, hook, line, and sinker. It makes no sense for him to say that because there's no one for him to say that to.
Yeah.
That voice just doesn't match the thing. And like, why is, Jeremy Irons, this German, saying something that is a very quintessentially American phrase?
Oh, totally. And why does he always do that pirate drawl? If you watch him, he always does it. He did it in Dungeons and Dragons, if you really want to watch it.
No, I don't.
No, you don't. But he does that. McLean. And anytime he plays a bad guy, the comes in there. He thinks he's a pirate.
Yeah? Well, he thinks he's Jeffrey Rush.
Gotta say it. All right, so you got our ratings, folks. But I've got to say, I've got a couple. I'm going to bring them up here, folks, because these are classic movies. So we'll bring them up. They're coming from eBay, and I'm getting them delivered in the next couple of weeks. The first one is a Sean Connery one, the Blu-ray from Spain of Zadosh.
Oh.
That's a bit of a watch.
In the perfect Borat bikini on Mr. Sean Connery there.
We just call it nappy out here. It's crazy. But the gun is good. I've got Blade Runner, the X-Rental VHS version, director's cut, which is dirty and grungy and fantastic. That's coming here next week. Salute of the Jugger with Rutger Hauer and Joan Chen, better known as Blood of Heroes. That's a great movie.
Yeah.
My Science Project with John Stockwell, Danielle Van Zernick. That's coming here too. We also have Leviathan with Peter Weller and, of course, a certain Colonel from First Blood. He's in that one too. And, of course, from Chicago Hope and a whole heap of others. It's that great... who is the actor? I've got to check this out now, see if it pops up on the list here. It's that great Latin actor. Enrique... No. I've done it now. I'm going to have to look it up now. You realise this? I'm going to have to look him up now. Straight away we're going to know because he's in a lot of medical dramas over there. But he's a fantastic actor. And he plays, I think, the mechanic in it, is it? Yeah, here we go. You'll know straight away once I say the first name. It is, of course, Hector Elizondo.
Oh, yeah, they kind of made fun of him on Family Guy or American Dad because he's always playing concierges in movies.
He is too. Of course, we're talking about Richard Crenna there. Also, Daniel Stern's in it. Ernie Hudson. You also get Meg Foster, the amazing blue eyes of Meg
Oh,
Foster.
yeah. She's a
lovely-
naughty lady. I like her.
She's great. Eugene Lipinski. That's about all, folks. In that one, that's a one of those crazy ones you just got to watch if you get a chance to watch it. Now, the other one I picked up is, of course, Mission of Justice with the former Mrs. Sylvester Stallone, Bridget Nielsen, of course. No, Bridget, is that her name? Bridget Nielsen, was that right?
Brigitte Nielsen, yeah.
Brigitte Nielsen, that's right. Alongside the amazing Canadian, Martial Law Number 2, he was in, of course. Jeff Wincott, which, believe it or not, we've had a chat with ourselves out here. Didn't get him on the show, unfortunately, but we did chat about his movie and chat to him about it offline. He put out a documentary sort of movie, docudrama, mockudrama, whatever you call it, a little while back. But, of course, he's better known for his Taekwondo background, Kempo Karate, and, of course, he's just an all-round awesome dude because he's also the brother of Michael Wincott from The Crow. Call, bang, dead. That guy.
By the way, this is reminding me of something that I decided I'm watching on Amazon Prime. You bring up the former Miss Sylvester Stallone. There's a movie that just came to Amazon Prime called Mercenaries. Now, it is starring, of course, Brigitte Nielsen, Zoe Bell, who was Uma Thurman's stunt double in the Kill Bill movies. She was also one of the characters in Death Proof.
Yes, that's right.
Kristana Loken, who was the sexy lady Terminator.
TX, yeah.
Vivica Fox. But most importantly, the one, the only, Cynthia Rothrock.
Oh, Cynthia. Oh, yeah. And I tell you what.
And it's basically like, it's a, lack of a better term, it is a girl Expendables.
This is great. And look, I've got to say, Cynthia doesn't look a day over 40, and she's closer to 70. I mean, she's that little bit older. She's just always doing stuff. She's so fit.
You need to see this, the trailer, because Cynthia Rothrock in this, I want to obey her after watching this trailer. Oh, she looks like I want to do what she tells me to do. She's looking really good.
I've got to say, big shout out to two other martial artists. Cynthia first, I follow her on mainly through her Facebook fan page, and she's always on there chatting about different martial arts stuff. But she's very good friends with Don the Dragon Wilson, which, along with Art Comancho, the fight choreographer, martial arts star, these three are just really good mates. So I guess they're all based around LA, but they're always doing stuff together. So it's great, whether it's going to award shows or whatever it is, or, but she's Lady Dragon. I mean, at the end of the day, they both trained the same styles and stuff like that. But Don's really personable sort of a guy. He gets in there and chats on there and, comments and stuff like that. And it's great because he wants to know what you guys want to do too, like what you guys study and stuff. The other one is...
Well, he's doing a thing now, too, where he is accrediting independent schools under his... him and a few other people. It's sort of like the Huoyunjia Jingwu School in China. Where it kind of, like, recognizes artistry. And I've thought, actually, about getting accredited for my own school for that. But he actually takes... and they have, like, a big set of criteria. It's like, you actually have to have a lesson plan. You actually have to have skill. All that sort of stuff. But he's got a really cool system set up because not all of us can, trace our martial lineage to Gichin Funakoshi or,
O-Sensei.
Fumio Nomura or O-Sensei, Ritaro Takeda, that kind of thing. Like Jigoro Kano. We have, shorter lineages or lineages that people haven't heard of, like even in the sub... level smaller like Ryukyu style karate. It's a little harder to find a lineage, and this is a way to at least have a little bit of backing. And I think it's really cool that that someone like Don Wilson is actually doing that and giving credibility to good arts that may not have the best tail of the tape when they're signing up students.
Definitely. And the other one, folks, is Lauren Avedon, He's friends with these guys, but he pretty much is his own person. I think he's based out of Hawaii now. But Lauren's great. Obviously, King of the Kickboxers, No Retreat, No Surrender 2 and 3, and a whole heap of other movies. But He's a Taekwondo stylist. Actually, he's a lot taller than I expected him to be. I actually thought he was like only about 5'8", but I think he's about 6'2".
Mm-hmm. There's a few of us tall guys out there, and Taekwondo is, with those big kicks, it's really nice having those long legs to do them.
Ooh, yeah. So. Enjoy them. I've got short, stumpy legs. Very hard to get them that high. That's why I got to rely on that grappling a bit more. But, what's great about Lauren, too, is that he's really into just talking about martial arts all the time. Now, he has a link to, of course, the best of the best guys themselves. Two brothers, the Ree brothers, of course, Philip and his brother. And he's actually trained by them.
Oh, wow. And then, we did that big episode. Was that the first one we did?
I think it was, yeah. Best of the Best was. I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah. And, the love I have for those guys and for what they've done, I'll even forgive them for Best of the Best 3 and 4. Because Best of the Best 1 and 3 was so much fun.
Those first two, well, I actually, as much as I love, the first one's really heartfelt, particularly the ending when they know they've lost. And, he's moping about it, and he's kind of like, he says straight away, what am I going to do here? He lost, and then, of course, his brother comes over, and that just, if that doesn't make you tear up, then you got no heart, honestly, because there's, there's that scene, but it also, then Eric Roberts' character is in the final fight, he's like, don't do it, Tommy! No, don't do it, Tommy! It's just like, it's so energetic.
And again, James Earl Jones, Jim Greer. No.
I think we might need to do a whole cast just on Best of the Best 2. Now, I'll give you this. Best friend of Chris Penn is actually Don the Dragon Wilson. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
Best friend. There you go. The late Chris Penn. He sounds like he must have been a really fun guy to hang out with.
I would have definitely done it. Nice guy Eddie, of course. Willard Hewitt from Footloose. He was in the music video for whatever the theme song was for Rush Hour 1.
Yeah, he was.
Dude just seems like a lot of fun. He plays some weird characters, but come on. But you don't get to have that much fun in Hollywood unless you're that much fun to be around.
Yeah, but the thing is, here's what I look at it too. Like, I look at that, and I think he is just even his brother. A lot of people pin on Sean that he's so serious and stuff. But he might need to look at a few more videos. Sean's a very funny dude. Like, he really is. He's got a really good sense of humour. I think they just catch him on his off days. But there's even that one where David Spade took him out for, I think it was an MTV or a Saturday Night Live thing, where he said, right, I'm going to make you laugh. And Sean goes, I'm not doing an interview with you, man. And he says, no, we'll do it. Well, what would make you do it? He said, if I can tattoo you. And so he took him out and he said, whatever you do, don't make me laugh. He goes, I'm going to make you laugh. And they start, he was trying. Sean, a couple of giggles here and there, but there's no real laugh. And he just goes, hey, have you seen that new Pig movie yet? He goes, what, Babe? And he goes, no, The Net. And he just broke up and screwed up the tattoo like something crazy. Like, Sean was just rolling around, cacking himself stupid. So the guy is actually really funny.
No, what was the one I just watched? The Gunman.
Yeah, Gunman. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one.
Yeah. He's great. He was good in Thin Red Line as well. Actually, I got a couple of mates that worked on that up the coast near Port Douglas when it was shot here in Australia. And there's two people they said that were really just genuinely nice guys. Sean was one. The other one was Mickey Rourke, but he didn't even make the final cut.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of actors that didn't make the final cut in that, I remember. So,
it's a shame.
But at least they spent a lot of time looking at Jim Caviezel feeling mournful.
Oh, yeah, I know. Well, folks, I've got to say, we're going to wrap it up now, folks. This has been a 2-hour chat. It's been a bit of a train ride all over the place. We made a few pit stops at a few stations here and there for a little bit of a chin wag. But I've got to say, we covered one of our favourite films.
Yeah, and to me, this is my Connery.
Yes.
As much as, I obviously love the James Bond and the Highlander and all that stuff, to me, this will always be Connery. This is the role that think of him in. And when he passed, this was the first thing I watched.
G'day, folks. Hope you're enjoying the great shows here on the Phantom Podcast Network. Be sure to check out all the great shows that we have on offer and subscribe on the master feed at fpnet.podbean.com. You can check Blood of Kings, a Highlander podcast hosted by Kevin the Raider Nerd Riesel and Lee Fillingsness on that platform. You can also check out Culture Clash, which is the weekly look at pop culture hosted by Kevin and Kyle. Couch Potato Theatre. This is a cult classics and guilty pleasure podcast. Also Time Warp, a fandom flashback show. Endzone, a look at the NFL, the American football. Also Good Evening, an Alfred Hitchcock podcast looking at the great films of Alfred Hitchcock. Union Federation podcast, a Star Trek and Orville podcast looking at Discovery and of course Picard, plus the Orville. Also the Hair Metal podcast looking at the great shows put on by the amazing bands back in the late 80s, their discs, their LPs, everything, all covering the fashion as well, hosted by Kevin the Raider Nerd Riesel. You can also check out Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast, hosted by Kevin and Dan Hadley, looking at all the eras of Doctor Who. You can also catch out What a Piece of Junk, a Star Wars podcast, an amazing show looking at Star Wars, hosted by Derek and Scott. And of course our newest one, the amazing The Mullet Guild, an offshoot of the Lethal Mullet podcast looking at Frank Herbert's Dune universe. This is like an encyclopedia for Dune, where I take you through and down into the rabbit hole of Frank Herbert's amazing space opera, the sprawling universe which is going to be brought to life by Denis Villeneuve and December 18. You can check out all the shows there. Be sure to also go onto the social platforms on Twitter at FanPod Network. Let us know what you think of the shows and what else you can look at there. You can also check out great articles that we put up to there that we share. Also check out on Instagram and Facebook, Phantom Podcast Network. Be sure to make sure that every Tuesday you check out the great work done by Making Treks as well. A brand new podcast looking at a deep dive of Star Trek hosted by myself, James Semple, and of course the ever popular and amazing writer of Star Trek and Star Wars, Mark Newbold. Go and check it out, folks, and we'll catch you next time here on the Phantom Podcast Network's The Lethal Mullet Podcast. Good afternoon, good evening, and good